Good day, everybody. It gives me great joy to see you again in this video today. I'll be talking about a topic: gender and society. I did a video the other time on gender-based violence among migrants overseas. In this video, I want to give a little bit of more details on the subject of gender and society. This is against the background of feedbacks that I've received about the need for this video to properly educate people about the importance of gender and the implication for society. Gender is simply social construction of sex. Sex is biological and physiological, male, female. But when you talk about gender, it talks about the social constructions, the value attachment, the cultural elevation of sex is based on characteristic and identity of people on the account of norms and values, traditions, and culture. When we talk about men, women, boy, girl, LGBTQ community, that's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or transsexual communities, or the queer communities. These are different types of gender in terms of how it all started, where we were and where we are and where we are headed in terms of gender in society. So gender is very important. Gender has significant and extraordinary implications for people, how people are seen, how people are rated, expectations of people, roles they are supposed to play, and status they occupy, opportunities they have access to. Welfare, life chances of people are determined on the account of gender across the world. So gender is very important. That's why it's good for us to understand, because how far you go in life may be determined on the account of your gender. Different gender, especially male and female, traditionally, different roles are assigned to people based on their gender. And whether you do well in society, opportunities you are exposed to or that you are entitled to can be determined on the account of your gender. So gender is very important. Like I did mention in that video on gender-based violence, what even predispose so many people, the issues that predispose many people to gender-based violence as recipients or as people who perpetrate and perpetuate gender-based violence is based on gender constructions. So gender is social, cultural, traditional, sex is biological. And this gender developed over time on the account of socialization. Socialization is a sociological concept that means processes of inculcating the norms and values of society into people. When people are born, we say in sociology that they are born tabula rasa, that is, they are born plain, like plain slates. It's on the account of socialization, when they pass through different social institutions in society, that norms and values and traditional expectations, culture, are inculcated into them to the extent that they become who they are in terms of their behavioral patterns, attitude, and roles in society. So people don't just come up with gender constructions. It's based on socialization that they have passed through social institutions of their society. So socialization is the process of inculcating norms and values, ideals, traditions, culture of societies into people. And socialization is a lifelong process from birth to death. We keep being socialized. So, but socialization takes place when people move from one social institution to the other. What are social institutions? Social institutions are mechanisms, patterns through which people are made socially conformable. Social institutions are mechanisms, patterns through which social order is maintained. Values, norms, mores, and cultural ideals are embedded in different social institutions. And as people pass through these social institutions, they are socialized into being who they are and who they are expected to be. Now the question is, what are these social institutions? Examples of social institutions traditionally are education, family, economic, religion, and political system. These social institutions have norms and values embedded in them. When people are born, for example, they might be born into family. Families inculcate expectations, norms and values into them through toilet training. This is how we expect to behave as members of this family. That's why you have words like charity begins at home. From there, people move to probably education. There are norms and values in the educational system. Then people are taken through these norms and values in the educational system. They move into the economy, for example. When they get employed or they operate in the informal sector, there are rules, norms and values that they expect to conform to or expected ways of behavior in the economic system. That's why companies have their rules of engagement, staff handbook or staff handbook. Even when they get to politics or political system, that's why they say in this party, this is all you do. In this society, you have to vote, it's obligation. And when they get to religion, then you find religious leaders, holy books, telling them what to do on the account of the agenda. All these are socialization processes. But in contemporary society, agents of socialization or social institutions can also be regarded as agents of socialization, because through these institutions or agencies of education, family, religion, economy, that people are socialized. So that we call them agents of socialization, taking the family, education, economic, religion, and political system. We call them agents of socialization because these institutions have norms of a society and values embedded in them, which are indirectly or directly inculcated into people as they pass through these social institutions. But in contemporary society, social institutions have been expanded to include health system, peer groups, and social media, because all these also have roles to play in determining people's behavior. Social media, particularly, people are now socialized. People are even saying, some people are already announcing the death of the family, to the extent that some of the roles that family are expected to play as the bedrocks of society have been taken over by other institutions, especially the social media. So we now have extension of all of this. But even in social media, there are gender constructions, there are gender socializations in all these places. Even peer groups, peers educate or socialize their people through what we call peer pressure. Even in the health system, people in the health system also have their own rules of behavior. Among the sick, the roles the way people are expected to play and roles allocated, even in the social institution, even in the health system. So all these are agents of socialization. Now, as people are socialized, gender stereotypes, prejudices are inculcated into them. And society, through these expectations, are now determining what opportunities are exposed to people on the account of their gender socialization and gender identity. That's why we say women are supposed to do this, men are not supposed to do this. And you can see all of this across different social institutions. That's why you can have dominant genders being dominant. Being more opportunistic over other genders or other gender, depending on the society that you are. Some can be gender suppressive. They can be gender oppressive. And the dominant gender over the years may become very bullish in maintaining the status quo. It's not easy to drive social change along gender lines because it's based on traditions, values, cultures, norms, and these are things that have been existing for thousands of years. Changing them may not be easy. That's why it's very important for gender experts, people who are driving behavioral change along gender lines, to know that the changes may not be easily achievable, but steps, gradually, results may be achieved. Gender is so important in the sense that if you look at the economy, that's why we talk about gender mainstreaming. We talk about glass ceiling. That's why you have female CEOs not being so as many as male CEOs, even in the economic system, because the system is tilted towards advantageous men than women or other genders. It's even more critical to the LGBTQ communities. Gender, in terms of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual or transgender, and queer community, and plus, as they continue to call them as the rainbow group, they still encounter gender violence, and they still encounter gender discrimination on the account of their self-confessed identity. So these identities have huge implications for opportunities that people have. If women or some genders are seen to be incompetent, or they are seen not to be worthy of working in the paid employment, they are kept perpetually at home. And when they are at home, the work they do at home, even though they are economically competitive, they are seen as domestic work and they are not remunerated. And you force that gender into poverty in the long run. That's even from home. And from home, girls and boys are socialized differently. You socialize the boy to be the macho person, to be the warrior, to be the breadwinner. And you socialize the girl to be the domestic one, domestically inclined, to be subservient, to be domestic, to be soft, to be jelly. Why you socialize the boy or to be the man that must always take control, while the lady or the girl is socialized to be the submissive type. The same thing in religion. Holy books are full of verses that teach submissiveness and the man to be the head. If you get to the economy, the greasy employment, the greasy roles in the economic system are given to a gender over the other, therefore empowering the male gender or the one gender and disempowering the other. And if you look at the religious system, the leaders of these religions are of particular gender, while you have other gender or other genders being dominated as subservient, that they cannot play leadership role in this religious system. And they are kept perpetually in that subservient level through different verses of this holy system. And if you go to the political, you can see that especially in Africa, many poor countries, Asians, or the Latin Americans, the Caribbeans, or Africans, is also pronounced in these places that the political space is heavily dominated by the male gender. And they expect, and the way the politics is played in these places is such a way that it's believed that only men can cope in such spaces. That's why in many countries we now have affirmative action, where they say 35% of positions must be given to a particular to the oppressed gender over time. Job which is token as far as I am concerned. Why not give them free spaces to be able to compete with them? When you talk about gender equality or mutual respect along gender lines, gender equality does not mean give an oppressed gender what he or she, if it's a he gender, or if the she gender does not deserve. Gender equality means create equal opportunities for all genders. The cultural, the social, the traditional barriers that keep a gender under and empower the other over the other should be removed. The obstacles. If you oppress a gender, it affects how that gender seeks help at a point. It affects their health outcome. That you then lose gender lines to construct which doctor can be seen, when a gender can go to the hospital, and what is health behavior. So the life expectancy of people is affected on the account of gender construct. There are societies where a gender is not allowed to be exposed to formal education. Then that will affect their capacity to make a living in competitive modern economy or postmodern economy. Or they are married out too quickly. They don't have enough time to build capacity to compete effectively in the modern market or postmodern market. Or where you have obnoxious traditional widowhood practices, where women, because of their gender, are subjected to some obnoxious, oppressive widowhood practices. Even at home, dropout level, completion rate can affect people, how well they fare in life. So gender system in society, well, what's a society? A group of people relating in a community in orderly manner. That's a society. So every society, when you say a society, you're talking about a group of people who are relating in orderly manner based on agreed norms and values, laws that have been codified. That's a society. So when you have a group of people, it's already a society. When you now have norms and values that now determine gender expectations, this is very important for us to pay attention to, in the sense that how you profile people along gender lines will have implication for their life chances, how well they will fare in life. So be mindful how you socialize people, how you give them consciousness to express themselves and to take advantage. So what gender and society simply talks about is the reality of people along gender line, how they are socialized, and the norms and values that have oppressed them and kept them down, depending on which society you are talking about. Men can be oppressed, women can be oppressed. The LGBTQ community also, is faced with a lot of discrimination, and this will affect how well they feel, even in their mental health, their life chances, opportunity, how much health benefits they are exposed to, how much economic benefits they are exposed to, the quality of education they will be able to get, even their quality of life generally, how much opportunities they will be able to enjoy in the religious system and even in political system. That's why you have many poor countries. Women are poorly represented in political parties, even in elective offices, even in appointment to government offices. Even in traditional society, you have places where they say women cannot be kings just because of their gender, not on account of their competence or brilliance, but just because tradition has been instituted. Traditions have been instituted over time to keep them perpetually down. So traditions should not be instruments of oppression along gender line. So any tradition that is in conflict, any culture that is in conflict, any norm that is in conflict with social change that will inclusively enable everyone, regardless of gender, to activate their competencies and take opportunities to achieve their life aspirations and goals. Those traditions, cultures, and norms should give way to social change that is more inclusive. So gender and society, gender can be disempowering if you don't carefully interrogate gender and traditional systems that continue to uphold them. So patriarchy is very important as a construction, as a framework through which gender discrimination continues to thrive. Patriarchy is a cultural system that gives more privilege to one gender over the other, especially more privilege to men over women. And women are continually kept in subservient position relative to their male gender. Though it will not be easy to have gender equality or progressive gender inclusiveness, because institutions are continue to discriminate against a gender. People are already benefiting from this discrimination. So to have these community gatekeepers, people who benefit from gender discrimination, to shift the goalpost or to allow change to happen may not be easy. But we have to know that gender constructs that continue to disempower some must continually be interrogated. And social change is possible, but we must all come to the reality that gender discrimination is dangerous and can place embargo on people's capacity to achieve their life aspiration and live good life and have good well-being. And this ultimately will not go well for everyone, because until everyone, regardless of gender, is allowed to contribute meaningfully, objectively, development will not be achievable. Until everyone is allowed to contribute effectively, inclusively, based on competencies rather than obnoxious traditional benchmarks or cultural dictates that oppress, it will not be possible to even achieve the sustainable development goal. This takes me to the SDG. If the sustainable development goals, SDGs, will be achieved, then gender discrimination, oppressive gender dictates must be eliminated. Because the world now is almost at 50% of two dominant genders. And when you include other new genders along LGBTQ, that means the world will be excluding a whole chunk of people from meaningfully contributing to growth and development. But even poor countries, unfortunately, these poor countries where underdevelopment is holding sway, is where this obnoxious gender discrimination is holding sway massively. It's a contradiction. So these poor countries need inclusive participation in economy, religion, education, family, and politics, so that more capacity can be aggregated to drive growth and development. So there is gender and development is very important. If inclusive gender is not allowed, sustainable development may not be achievable. I hope you have enjoyed this video today, gender and society. Inclusive gender is the panacea to the achievement of sustainable development. Until I see you in the next video, keep encouraging gender inclusiveness. Thank you very much. I wish you well.